So this has been a matter of a lot of debate, and I think people get mad when some of us say this, but for the person who was the youngest member of the band, it's really sad to see Harry Styles look like he's actually aged more than the rest of the members, and he was the youngest. So, what do I think it is? And I don't think it's as easy as saying it's about not being with Louis or it's the effect of all the stress. Some people are thinking maybe he's drinking too many drinks. I don't know. I haven't heard any stories about him being intoxicated like Justin Bieber. You know, I think there's more than one cause, but it it makes me think that sometimes if you are holding emotional baggage and if you're weighted down by sorrow, it can aid you because of how you're holding all the tension, like I've talked about. Because if I look at Harry's mom, she's very youthful looking. So some people, they come from a family that they don't really age well, but doesn't look like that's the case. Anyway, on a more positive note, I was thinking about the way Larry Stylinson flipped the script, and it flipped the script whether you were heteronormative or whether you were not. Because if you grew up in maybe one of those places where it truly is toxic masculinity culture, and you had messages early on that this is how boys treat girls, and it's the machismo, the bravado, the domineering, the kind of what looks like overprotectiveness, but is really like control and coercion. And it doesn't matter if you're in a big city or a small town. There are pocket neighborhoods where there's a promotion and a reinforcement and a celebration of people that are truly the toxic masculine. So I'm not attacking like masculine strength and the ways that men have built civilizations according to history anyway. But I'm talking about where too much of a good thing can get really really bad. So if that's all you saw, and that's why I say there's programming when things are normalized. If that's all you saw up until, say, you were entering your teens in 2010, 2011, were boys behaving truly badly, locker talk that was done to make you feel really uncomfortable, the aggressiveness that crossed a line into battery, and it happens actually even among really young adolescents. It's kind of scary because guess what? People tend to model what they have seen, and they also tend to continue behaving in ways that are encouraged, reinforced, not stopped, not consequence, no consequences given. So when I say Larry Stylinson flipped the script, it's because Larry Stylinson flipped the script for a lot of girls and a lot of boys, whether they were LGBTQ plus or an ally or just completely straight, because you didn't have that bad rock star behavior that past acts were known for. You seem to see young boys act rowdy, but at the same time be sensitive. And they gelled so well that you didn't get the sense that they were artificial. And that was probably the secret sauce to why they really did become a Beatles 2.0. But it flipped the script because when social media rose and you had tumblers that were launching and Twitter streams and YouTube fan videos that were bombarding you with images of a tough and tender exchange, whether it was with each other, with others, with their fans. You, if you didn't see any representation of safety and kindness and gentleness and young, barely young adult males embracing both their yin and yang side, or their masculine and feminine. Well, you got it with Larry. And if somebody really didn't have any role models like that in their immediate vicinity, and the people that were around them day to day, thank God for the internet and the exponential growth of the fandom, because they were bombarded with it with Larry. So why do I say this? Because people can argue with me and say, "Oh, it's just this shipping thing that went out of hand. It's people who can't let it go. It's people who don't have enough time on their hands." All those things. And maybe sometimes it can apply, but there is a phenomenon that I think was underestimated, but how Larry Stylinson has grown, when I don't see people saying that, you know, I want somebody who looks at me the way they look at each other. I don't think that that's just being silly. I think they've caught on to something, and they have a they have an internalized image. So when you're bombarded by a lot of messages, whether it's through media and people, there's a bit of you go into a kind of a hypnotic state when you watch TV, or when you're just, kind of not really like thinking intentionally, right? And that's how people can get programmed by society. And that's why, depending on what zip code you grow up in, your your reality could be a little different than somebody else, right? Because we all know income matters. But when you look at Larry Stylinson, you see actually how sweet people can be when they really care. And it's in the subtleness, and it's in the sort of that those consistent actions that fans are picking up, right? It's the day-to-day, everyday effort, more so than the grand gestures, that really make an impact. So there is this concept in psychology called the reticular activating system, and it talks about how we are bombarded by so much data in life that we will scan environments and we'll pick up what we have told our subconscious is important. And the brain looks for patterns, it looks for matches. And if you ever wonder why sometimes people they'll go for the same type of person every time, except it's in a different body, but the personality is the same. It's because the theory goes that they're looking for patterns, and it's familiar. And if it's familiar but it's negative, it it's just like the cliche says, it's the devil you know. So where Larry was a form of a counteracting force, like I like to say, an antidote to all that toxic displays, and boys are dangerous, and all these things, which, if you look up the book The War on Boys, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But because if you tell your mind that something is important, such as if I want a red car. This is a common example. If I want a red car, if I suddenly really want a red car, I want a Volvo because it's really safe, anything. And then suddenly there's the experience of all you see are the red cars or the Volvos. It doesn't mean that there's been an increase in the quantity that's around you. It just means that when you scan the environment, your your mind is seeking what you've told it is important. So where Larry can be, and has been, a flip the script game changer, is that if somebody was exposed enough to seeing the storyline play out, and the just this devotion that was in the subtle, and then it was subtly dramatic. The reason why the Larrys seem to be very good at zoning in on details is because that skill got sharpened, because they were telling themselves that that was really important to notice the nuances. The other thing too is, apart from looking at pattern recognition, it's also what you are looking for in a relationship. And because there is enough constant stream of these kind glances and these ways that show that they care. Like Louis would fill a glass of water while he was doing a press conference, and this is, like, very early on, the early days, and in the footage, you see he automatically will fill Harry's cup. Again, it's that little considerations that add up, and so you have all these examples, if no example of that existed with the people around you, at least you had that, and so hopefully people internalized exactly that, and so when they were out and about and looking to meet someone or open to meeting someone, the pattern recognition and the brain looking for things that match would activate. And perhaps, maybe, just maybe, Larry Stylinson for some of you, and hopefully all of you. That's my optimistic wish. Help steer you to find people that truly cared, and not just in what they said, not just they did on important holidays, but what they did every day, day in and day out. Because no matter how attractive somebody is, eventually they're going to get old. Eventually, you get used to what they look like, and they become familiar, and they become ordinary, no matter how sunny they used to be. It's just called it's called habituation, actually. And flipping the script means, if you didn't know before how to find a safe, loving, caring person that was considerate, that the archetype of what Larry Stylinson began to mean for fans, and how fans depicted them, and how they would splice footage together. And if you watched enough hours over the years, whether it was, 5 minutes every day adds up, you were giving yourself an imprint of how, like, true love relationships kind of look. So that's how Larry Stylinson flipped a script, because maybe some people, feel free to share, but did it actually send you towards the arms that were meant to be holding you, not the arms that were meant to be restraining you and barricading you and controlling you and all sorts of things. So, because Larry had such a universal appeal, it was a breakthrough appeal. It, like I said, it didn't matter if you were a guy or a girl. And even if you were a straight guy, this Larry, if you kept hearing about it from your sister or a female friend or the girls in your school, it may have actually showed you how to, maybe it taught you how to be genuinely kind and romantic at the same time without being sappy and, dopey. So the applications are not just for one particular group. It hopefully influenced a generation. And I'm not saying we seek perfection, and I'm not saying we seek replication or duplication, because no two relationships are the same. But I think you can always aspire to something. And because there's 6 years in a adolescence, or they were teenagers and they ended as young adults, you kind of saw the evolution of a relationship maturing with people that, if you were the target demographic, you could relate to. So flipping the script pays dividends, because prior to One Direction, you did get different images that made you think that the bad boy was attractive. But now, because we had a good 6 years of it, the bad boy doesn't seem so attractive. In fact, Harry sort of overwrites that one, as does Louis.